When I first started working, I made the mistake so many make. I let my income dictate my lifestyle. Every time I earned a little more, I spent a little more. It felt natural at the time, almost like a reward for my effort. But the truth is, that habit kept me trapped. What I discovered painfully at first is that wealth has very little to do with how much you earn, and everything to do with how you manage what you earn. Living below your means isn't about deprivation, it's about preparation. It's about creating a gap between what comes in and what goes out, so that gap can become your seed for investment, your margin for opportunity, your cushion for growth. Now, here's the balance. You live below your means in practice, but you think far above your circumstances in vision. The poor mindset spends everything it gets because it can't see beyond today. The wealthy mindset saves, invests, and delays gratification because it's focused on tomorrow. When you think above your circumstances, you stop asking, what can I buy with this paycheck? And start asking, how can I use this paycheck to create something better? I'll tell you what shifted me. I once sat down with a mentor who asked me, if your current habits continue, where will they take you in 5 years? I didn't like the answer. That's when I learned to budget. Not just to control spending, but to direct money with intention. I learned to put aside a portion for savings and a portion for investing, even when it was small. And I learned the discipline of delaying gratification, not because I couldn't afford something, but because I had chosen to build something bigger. You see, wealth is built in the invisible decisions. Nobody sees the dinner you didn't buy or the gadget you didn't upgrade. But over time, those invisible choices turn into visible results. One day people will look at your success and say, you're lucky. But luck was just your discipline compounded over time. So live below your means, but don't let your circumstances shrink your vision. Save faithfully, manage wisely, but dream abundantly. That balance, discipline today, vision for tomorrow, is where wealth begins. Discipline your spending, but never discipline your dreams. When most people think about multiplying money, their first thought is, I need to earn more. And while earning more can certainly help, it's not the real secret. The truth is, most people don't need more income, they need more wisdom. You've seen it happen. Someone gets a raise, and a month later they're in the same financial condition as before, sometimes worse. Why? Because their habits followed them into that new income. Multiplying money doesn't begin with a bigger paycheck. It begins with a sharper mindset. I learned this lesson the hard way. In my younger days, I thought money problems could be solved by simply making more. But every time I did, I managed to find new ways to spend it. It wasn't until I slowed down and really looked at my habits that I discovered money was leaking out of my life in small, careless ways, wasteful spending, poor planning, unnecessary upgrades. Once I started plugging those leaks, I realized I already had the capital to build with. Eliminating waste is the first multiplication. Every dollar you stop from slipping away is a dollar that can now be put to work. And when you reinvest those saved dollars into something productive, whether it's an asset, a business, or even your own education, they don't just sit, they grow. Imagine if, instead of buying something that loses value, you invested that same money into something that gains value. Over time, the difference becomes staggering. And here's the beauty. You don't have to do it all at once. You let time and discipline do the heavy lifting. Compounding is not just a financial principle, it's a life principle. A small, consistent act, repeated faithfully, builds into something extraordinary. $10 a week, saved and invested wisely, becomes far more than just $10 a week. It becomes a habit that multiplies across years. So don't get caught up only chasing more income. Focus on managing and multiplying what you already have. Learn to redirect money away from waste and into growth. Let your dollars become workers instead of just consumers. A wise person once told me, if you can't manage a little, you won't manage a lot. Start with wisdom and the wealth will follow. Multiplication begins not with income, but with intention. When you build your life only on paychecks, you'll always feel uncertain because paychecks come and go. Companies change, industries shift, economies rise and fall. If the only foundation you've got is the money that shows up on Friday, then you'll always be anxious about whether it will still show up next Friday. That's a fragile way to live. But when you build your life on principles, on timeless values like integrity, patience, and work ethic, you create a foundation that no fluctuation can shake. I remember early on when I was broke and searching, I thought money was the answer to everything. But soon I realized money without principles is like a house built on sand. It won't last. I met men who had wealth for a season but lost it because they didn't have the patience to wait, the discipline to sustain, or the integrity to keep trust. And once trust is broken, money always follows it out the door. Integrity is a principle that multiplies its value over time. When people know you keep your word, opportunities come your way, even in lean seasons. Patience is another principle. Wealth isn't quick, it's steady. Without patience, you'll make rash decisions, chasing fast gains that usually turn into fast losses. Work ethic ties it all together. Even when income is low, a strong work ethic ensures you're planting seeds for the future. The harvest doesn't come to those who wait idly. It comes to those who keep showing up with diligence, no matter the season. I've watched people chase paychecks their whole lives, only to realize they never built anything lasting. The paycheck bought them groceries, maybe a new car, maybe even a big house, but it didn't buy them wisdom, character, or freedom. On the other hand, I've also seen people with modest incomes but strong principles build extraordinary lives. They had patience with small beginnings, integrity in every transaction, and the work ethic to keep pressing forward. Over time, life rewarded them far beyond their paychecks. So don't let your foundation be fragile. Paychecks are tools, but principles are anchors. Build your house on something unshakable, because when the storms of life come, and they always come, it won't be your paycheck that saves you, it will be the principles you chose to live by. Wealth can come and go, but principles make sure you're never truly broke. If your life is built only on paychecks, you'll always be standing on shaky ground. Paychecks can rise, they can fall, and sometimes they even disappear. Companies go under, markets shift, jobs get replaced. If that's the only foundation you're standing on, you'll live in constant fear of the next change. But when you build your life on principles, you create a foundation that lasts no matter what happens with your income. Integrity, patience, and work ethic, those are the cornerstones that money cannot replace. I learned early that chasing money alone is a losing game. I've met people who had plenty for a short while but lost it just as quickly because they didn't have the discipline to manage it or the integrity to hold on to the trust of others. And once trust is gone, opportunities vanish right along with it. That taught me a critical truth. Money is a result, but principles are the cause. If you keep the cause steady, the result will keep showing up. Take integrity. If people know you, keep your word. Doors will keep opening. They may not open instantly, but they open steadily, and they stay open. Patience is another one. Wealth doesn't arrive overnight. It grows like a crop, little by little, season by season. Without patience, you'll spend your life chasing quick wins, and most of those turn into quick losses. And then there's work ethic. Even when the paycheck is small, The principle of showing up with diligence means you're planting seeds, and no matter how tough the season, seeds eventually bring a harvest. I've watched people with modest incomes live rich lives because they were anchored in principles. They saved when it wasn't easy. They honored small responsibilities. They kept their promises. Over time, life rewarded them with opportunities, relationships, and wealth. On the other hand, I've seen high earners live constantly broke because their habits and values couldn't support what they made. That's the danger of relying on paychecks without principles. You can out-earn yourself right into ruin. So when you think about your foundation, don't ask, how much am I making? Ask instead, what am I becoming? Am I trustworthy? Am I patient? Am I diligent? Because if the answer is yes, then the money will come, and when it does, you'll know how to keep it, grow it, and use it wisely. Build on principles, not paychecks. That's how you create something no storm can wash away. Let me tell you something I've learned over the years. If you want to create real wealth, you have to get to a point where your money is working for you, not the other way around. Most people spend all their energy trading hours for dollars, believing that the only way to earn is to show up and labor. But if every single dollar you earn must be earned again by your sweat, you're chained to a life that never truly grows. That's why learning to make your money work while you sleep is a game changer. I remember when I first started investing, I didn't have a lot of money, and every dollar felt precious. Yet I realized that if I kept it all in a savings account or spent it as it came, I was essentially keeping myself small. So I started learning about compounding, about index funds, dividend-paying stocks, and rental properties. The idea was simple. Put money into assets that could grow on their own, quietly, even when I wasn't actively working. At first, it felt almost magical. $10 here, $20 there, and over time, the growth began to snowball. The power isn't in large sums at the start. It's in consistency, patience, and letting time do the heavy lifting. Think about it like planting a tree. You don't see it grow overnight. You plant the seed, water it, care for it, and each day it gets a little taller, a little stronger, until one day it's providing shade, fruit, and shelter. Your investments are the same. Every dividend reinvested, every rental income collected and reallocated, every contribution to an index fund, even if it's small, adds to your forest of wealth. And the beautiful part is that the more disciplined you are, the more compounding accelerates. Time becomes your greatest ally, turning modest beginnings into substantial results. I've met countless people who waited for enough money before they invested, and years later, they still hadn't started. Don't wait. Start now. No matter how small the beginning, the point is to begin to let your money be a worker in your life. Save alone is not enough. Save and grow. Teach your money to earn while you sleep. And eventually, the freedom it provides allows you to make choices that aren't dictated by the next paycheck. Let your money work while you sleep. That's where true financial leverage begins. Let me share something I've noticed over the years. Most people are brilliant at spending their time on things that don't move the needle. They major in minor things. They get caught up in endless distractions, entertainment, trivial conversations, or busy work that feels productive but delivers nothing in terms of real results. Meanwhile, the clock keeps ticking, and those hours never come back. Time is the most valuable asset you have, and how you use it ultimately determines your financial and personal destiny. I learned this lesson the hard way. Early in my career, I spent hours watching television, reading gossip, and indulging in distractions that offered momentary pleasure. It was easy, it was fun, but it didn't add value. I was earning a living, but I wasn't building a life. Then I met a mentor who challenged me to examine how I spent every hour of the day. He said, "If you don't take your time seriously, nothing else will work." That stuck with me. I began to track my hours, distinguishing between what moved me toward wealth, knowledge, and growth, and what simply filled space. The difference between people who remain in the 97% and those who join the 3% often comes down to this. The wealthy understand that every hour is an investment. They don't waste hours on fleeting entertainment or trivial matters. Instead, they allocate their time to activities that increase their value, grow their skills, and generate income. Reading a book on business, learning a new skill, attending a seminar, building a side project, networking with people who are successful. All of these are ways to invest time wisely. Even a small daily commitment compounds over weeks, months, and years, creating opportunities that someone wasting time could never imagine. I recall friends who earned the same salary I did, but spent evenings scrolling aimlessly or watching endless shows. 10 years later, the outcomes were dramatically different. They had little to show beyond memories of wasted hours, while I had businesses, investments, and a network that paid dividends because I chose to major in major things. The principle is simple but powerful. Your time is finite. Choose carefully. Focus on income producing, skill building, and opportunity generating activities. Delay gratification, limit distractions, and prioritize what actually matters. When you begin to do this consistently, life opens up in ways you never thought possible. Don't major in minor things. Major in the things that shape your destiny. I want you to consider something very important. Dreams alone will never make you wealthy. You can have the grandest vision, the most inspiring goals, but without discipline, those dreams remain just that, dreams. Discipline is the bridge between imagination and reality, the quiet engine that turns ambition into achievement. It's not dramatic. It doesn't demand a single heroic act. What it requires is consistency in the small things you do every day. I learned this lesson early in life when I had little more than hope and ambition. I knew I wanted financial freedom, but I didn't start with a fortune or a special advantage. What I did have, however, was the willingness to adopt daily disciplines. I began with something simple. I saved a small portion of every dollar I earned. At first, it didn't feel like much, but over time, that small habit grew into real financial leverage. I also committed to reading daily, even if it was just a chapter or a few pages. Knowledge, like money, compounds. What you learn today may not pay off tomorrow, but over months and years, the cumulative effect is profound. Another discipline I embraced was tracking every expense. It might seem tedious, but awareness creates control. When I knew exactly where every dollar went, I could make intentional choices instead of letting money slip through my fingers. Each of these small acts, saving, learning, monitoring, felt almost invisible in the moment. Yet they built a foundation that allowed me to grow steadily and securely. I've seen countless people with dreams far bigger than mine who never succeeded simply because they lacked daily discipline. They relied on motivation, which is fickle and fleeting, instead of cultivating habits that would carry them forward even when they didn't feel like it. Discipline doesn't require excitement. It requires commitment. It's showing up consistently, planting seeds day after day, trusting that over time, those seeds will yield a harvest. Remember, the bridge from dreams to wealth isn't constructed in a day. It is built plank by plank through small, deliberate actions repeated faithfully. Your daily choices, no matter how ordinary they seem, compound into extraordinary results. Discipline is the bridge. Walk it faithfully, and your dreams will eventually meet your reality. Let me share a truth that many people overlook. Every dollar you earn has potential, but that potential only grows when you treat it wisely. Money, when spent thoughtlessly, disappears as quickly as it comes. It serves as a fleeting source of pleasure, a temporary fix, a tool for instant gratification, but it never builds anything lasting. On the other hand, when you save and invest a portion of what you earn, each dollar becomes a worker, a seed planted that can grow quietly while you focus on life. I learned this lesson early when I was just starting out, trying to make ends meet on modest wages. I remember having $10 in my pocket, and the temptation to spend it on something that felt good in the moment was strong. But a mentor once told me, "Don't spend your seed, plant it." That advice changed the way I thought about money. I began setting aside even a small percentage, 10% of every paycheck, before touching the rest. It felt strange at first. I wasn't wealthy, yet I was disciplined enough to pay myself first. That tiny habit taught me ownership. I wasn't just earning money, I was directing it toward growth, toward a future where it would work for me rather than the other way around. Over time, those small amounts compounded. Dollars that might have been spent on fleeting pleasures became investments in stocks, in education, in small businesses. Each dollar I saved was like hiring an employee. It showed up, worked steadily, and brought back returns. I realized that wealth doesn't require earning millions immediately. It requires consistent planting and nurturing of the dollars you already have. Small contributions, repeated faithfully, eventually grow into something you could never achieve by spending recklessly. I've seen people make a high income and still struggle because they treated money like a disposable resource. Compare that to those who consistently save and invest a portion of every paycheck. They may start with less, but over time, their financial garden grows strong and abundant. It's not about how much you make, it's about what you do with it. So, when you earn money, see it as a seed. Don't let it vanish in the pursuit of temporary comfort. Plant it, nurture it. Let time and compounding do the heavy lifting. Each dollar you save is an employee working tirelessly for your future freedom and security. Plant your seed today and watch your future grow. Let me tell you something very few people understand. Your financial results are a direct reflection of your philosophy about money. You cannot get rich, you cannot build lasting wealth with a poor philosophy. You can earn a little, you can get lucky for a time, but without the right mindset, the money slips through your fingers. The beliefs you hold, the stories you tell yourself about earning, saving, and spending, they determine not only how much money comes to you, but how long it stays.